The rain began just after midnight. The highway stretched endlessly through the mountains, empty except for one old bus fighting its way through the storm. Daniel sat in the last row, staring through the fog-covered window. He had always preferred sitting alone, far away from noisy passengers and endless conversations. Outside, lightning illuminated the dark forest for only a second before everything disappeared into blackness again. The bus was old. Every movement made the metal body creak. The windows rattled. The headlights flickered. Even the driver looked nervous. There were only 7 passengers. An elderly man reading a newspaper. A woman sleeping beside the window. A businessman typing on his laptop. A young couple whispering quietly. A man wearing a long black coat. And Daniel. The driver suddenly spoke through the speaker. "We'll be stopping at Black Hollow Station for 5 minutes." No one answered. The bus continued moving. Rain hammered against the roof. Daniel looked at his phone. No signal. The time was 11:58 p.m. 2 minutes later, the bus stopped beside an abandoned station. The sign above the building barely remained attached. Black Hollow. The station building looked deserted. Broken windows. Cracked walls. An old clock hanging above the entrance. Its hands pointed toward midnight. The driver stepped outside to smoke a cigarette. No passengers left their seats. Daniel looked around. Something felt wrong. The station was completely silent. No insects. No wind. Nothing. Then the clock struck 12. The sound echoed across the empty station. 1, 2, 3. The bus door suddenly opened. A man climbed inside. His clothes were soaked by the rain. His face remained hidden beneath a dark hat. Without saying a word, he slowly walked down the aisle. One step, another step, another step. He ignored every empty seat. He continued moving toward the back, toward Daniel. The stranger sat beside him. The cold from his wet clothes immediately filled the air. Daniel shifted uncomfortably. The stranger never looked at him. The bus driver returned. The door closed. The journey continued. After several minutes, Daniel noticed something strange. No one was moving. The elderly man wasn't turning the pages of his newspaper. The businessman wasn't typing. The sleeping woman hadn't moved once. Even the young couple sat completely still. The entire bus looked frozen. Daniel swallowed. "Excuse me." No response. He stood and walked toward the elderly man. His hand touched the passenger's shoulder. Ice. The skin was freezing. Slowly, the newspaper slipped from the old man's fingers. The front page faced Daniel. Mountain bus disappears in storm. 7 passengers presumed dead. The date was 15 years old. His heart began racing. He looked around. His breathing became heavier. The businessman slowly lifted his head. His eyes were completely white. The sleeping woman opened her eyes. White. The young couple turned toward him. White. Daniel stumbled backward. No. The bus lights began flickering. On. Off. On. Off. Every time darkness covered the bus, the passengers moved closer. When the lights returned, they were sitting normally again. Daniel rushed toward the driver. "Stop the bus." The driver didn't answer. "Stop the bus." Still nothing. The driver slowly turned around. His eyes were white. Daniel screamed. The steering wheel suddenly began turning by itself. The bus accelerated. Faster and faster. Rain exploded across the windshield. Lightning flashed. The road disappeared beneath the storm. The speedometer climbed. 80, 81, 82. The passengers began standing. One by one. The old man. The woman. The businessman. The young couple. All of them silently walked into the aisle. Only one passenger remained seated. The man beside Daniel. The last passenger. He slowly removed his hat. His face was pale. His skin looked almost transparent. Deep scars crossed his forehead. His lips curled into a terrible smile. "You finally noticed." Daniel couldn't breathe. "What do you want?" The stranger slowly pointed toward the windshield. "Look outside." Lightning flashed again. Daniel looked. His blood turned cold. The bus wasn't driving on highway. There was no road. There was only darkness. The bus was floating through an endless black void. Trees appeared for a moment, then disappeared. Mountains appeared, then vanished. Nothing remained in one place. The world outside kept changing. "What is this?" The stranger smiled. "This bus never reached its destination." "No. 15 years ago, this bus drove off the mountain." "No. Everyone died." Daniel shook his head. "You're lying." The stranger leaned closer. His voice became little more than a whisper. "We've been traveling ever since." The bus lights suddenly died. Complete darkness swallowed everything. Daniel couldn't see his own hands. Then he heard breathing. Not one person. Not 2. 7. Slow, heavy breaths surrounded him. A hand touched his shoulder. Another touched his arm. Cold fingers wrapped around his wrist. The lights returned. Every passenger stood around him. Their faces were inches away. Water dripped from their clothes. Mud covered their skin. Broken bones pushed against their wet uniforms. They smiled. All of them. The driver slowly stood and walked away from the steering wheel. The bus continued driving without anyone controlling it. Daniel ran toward the emergency exit. Locked. He punched the window. Nothing. He kicked the door. Nothing. The passengers slowly approached. Step, step, step. The stranger never moved. He remained seated in the last row, watching, waiting. The old woman whispered, "Stay with us." The businessman whispered, "Don't leave." The young couple whispered together, "Stay." The bus suddenly stopped. Silence filled the darkness. The doors opened. Outside stood another bus station. An old sign hung above the building. "Welcome to Black Hollow." Daniel jumped from the bus. Rain immediately soaked his clothes. He ran toward the station building. The door opened. Inside, everything was covered in dust. Old benches, broken chairs, rotting walls. Then he saw the photographs. Dozens of missing person posters covered the walls. He recognized the faces. The old man, the woman, the businessman, the young couple, the driver, and the stranger. One photograph remained. His photograph. Daniel slowly stepped closer. His hands began trembling. The newspaper clipping beneath the photograph read, "Local man found dead after mountain bus accident." His name appeared beneath the article. Daniel Carter. His legs gave way. No. Memories exploded inside his mind. The bus. The rain. The screaming. The bus falling over the edge of the mountain. Broken glass. Darkness. He remembered everything. He had died. He had been dead all along. The station door slowly opened behind him. He didn't need to turn around. He already knew who stood there. The last passenger. You remember now. Daniel closed his eyes. Why can't we leave? The stranger looked toward the rain. Because someone always gets on the bus. A pair of headlights suddenly appeared outside. A car slowly stopped beside the station. A traveler stepped out into the storm. He looked around, confused, lost. The stranger smiled. It's time. The bus engine roared to life. The doors opened. The passengers silently returned to their seats. Daniel looked one last time at the station. The rain never stopped. The clock above the building still pointed toward midnight. He slowly walked back toward the bus. The last empty seat waited beside the window. He sat down. Outside, the traveler climbed onto the bus. The doors closed. The headlights cut through the darkness. And somewhere deep inside the mountains, an old bus carrying its dead passengers continued its endless journey through the storm, searching for another soul to join them. Because on that road, there was always room for one more passenger.